We're now on to actually looking at rounding to significant figures. So we know from the previous video what significant figures are, hopefully, if we've seen that, but now actually on to how we round. So the question here says round 2,464 to 3 significant figures. Now, first of all, you've got to identify where the third significant figure is, which is the 6. It's your third number that isn't a 0. So there we go. And like when you round to decimal places that we've seen before, okay, we've got to be using this. So when you round, you look to your number to the right of where that third significant figure is, which is a 4, okay? And if that number is 4 or less, you round down. If it's 5 or more, you round up, okay? And because 4 is 4 or less, you keep the 6 the way it is, but importantly, with significant figures, right, you're going to write it as 2. You keep it as a 6, and this time you replace the number afterwards, or the numbers afterwards, with a 0. So it's going to be 2460, as you can see down below. So the 6 stays the same as the 4 rounds down, and the numbers after are replaced with a 0, and that's really, really important. Okay, so there we go. Just a bit of context here, right? The third significant figure in this question, right, is going to be, right, if that's the ones column, and that's the tens column, and that's the hundreds, and that's going to be the thousands column, really, because you're rounding to the third significant figure, you're looking at rounding to the tens column. Okay, so you're looking at rounding really to the nearest 10. Okay, so 2,464 to the nearest 10 is 2,460. That's what it really means, okay, behind the scenes. Anyway, let's now look at another example. This one is saying round 0.0285 to 2 significant figures. Now, first of all, identify the second significant figure, which is the 8. There you go. And there you go, 8 is your second significant figure. And look at the number to the right, as always. We're using this over here. And the number to the right, because that is 5 or more, it means you round this 8 up. And rounding up means it's going to become a 9. So it's going to go to 0.029. And you replace the number afterwards with a 0. But when you've got a point, okay, this is exactly the same thing as just writing 0.029. This means the same thing as this. Okay, so this one, you can just keep it as this. There you go. Okay, and you can read that there if you want to, just to clarify it, but that should hopefully be good. Okay, so I go on to some my turns. I go on to some my turns. You can then try some your turns, which I've called my turns. Oh, I don't know why that's happening. Right, that should say your turn. For some reason, right when I write up here, it glitches out. But anyway, that should say, why is that happening? That's really, really strange. Anyway, right, I'll go through these ones, and then you can try the ones on the next slide. And it should say, I don't know why I can't. In fact, I'm going to edit it right now. I'm going to edit it right now. Sorry, right, let's go and call this a your turn quickly. There we go. Apologies for that. There we go. Okay, good. So, my turn. Round this to the second significant figure. Now, you've got to identify your second significant figure, which is going to be that 3. Okay, and then your number to the right of it is a 6. And because that is 5 or more, I'm making a note of it up here. Actually, no, we should be okay. Make a note of this on your pen pad or notepad. That could be useful because I'm not going to write it down again. So the number 6 here is bigger than 5, which means you round up to a 4. So it's going to become 2 and then 4. And you replace your numbers afterwards with a 0 and then a 0. So you replace the 6 and the 7 with zeros. Okay, so 2,400. And that is your answer for the first one. Next one, you've got 0.698 to the first significant figure. Now, the 6 is your first significant figure. It's your first number after a 0. Okay, and your number to the right again is bigger than 5, so that 6 will go up to a 7. You round it up to a 7, so 0.7. You replace your numbers afterwards with zeros, but because you've got a point, okay, that means the same thing as just 0.7. So that is absolutely fine as your answer. One below, we've got 0.0274 to the second significant figure, which is going to be the 7. Okay, and then the 4, because that's 4 or less, you round down, you're going to keep it as a 7. So 0.02, and you keep it as a 7. You can replace it with a 0 afterwards, the 4, but you don't need to because you've got a decimal point in your answer. So that one is just going to be 0.027. This one, you've got 0.505 to the second significant figure. And this time, right, that's your first significant figure. The 0 is your second significant figure. You do count it. So this 0 is... that is your second significant figure because it comes after a number that isn't a 0. Now, your number to the right is bigger than 5, so you're going to be rounding up. So that 0 is going to become a 1. So it's going to go to 0.5. 0 becomes a 1, and you replace the 5 with a 0, which of course means the same thing as just 0.51. And that there is your answer for this one. Okay, you can now try your turns. You can pause the video and give those a go, and you can fast forward to the end to see the answers. So the first one, we're rounding to the first significant figure, and the first sig fig here is going to be that 4, and your number to the right is a 1, which is less than 4. So you're rounding down, so you're keeping it as a 4, and you replace your numbers afterwards with zeros. So you're going to get to 4,000, and that's your answer for this one. Next one, you've got 2.459. So the second significant figure, that's going to be the 4. Okay, so this one up here, and your number afterwards is a 5, which means you're rounding the 4 up. You're rounding up, so 2.5, and you replace these numbers afterwards with zeros. But again, you've got a decimal point going on, so you can just get rid of those zeros and keep it as 2.5. Next one, your first significant figure here is going to be that 1. It's your first number after the zeros. Your number to the right of it is bigger than 5. It's going to be rounding up to a 2. So 0.0, and then the 1 becomes a 2. These become zeros, but again, because you've got decimal points, they can just go. So you can just keep it as 0.02. Last but not least, you've got this number. Your second significant figure actually is this 0 because it comes after your first significant figure. So you do include it, and your number to the right of it is less than 4. So you're rounding down. You're just keeping it as a 0. So 0.01, you keep it as a 0. Okay, and you can replace that 2 also with a 0. But of course, again, if you've got a decimal point, you don't need to have those zeros on the end. And that is going to simply be your answer. And that is it on rounding to significant figures. Hopefully that was useful, and thank you for watching.